The wisest man in Greece said he knew nothing, and his city killed him for it. His name was Socrates. And here's the first problem: he never wrote a single word. Everything we know comes from people who adored him, or wanted him dead. His student Plato turned him into a hero. His enemies turned him into a menace. Somewhere between them is a real man who walked Athens barefoot for 70 years. A man who claimed to know nothing. And used that claim to humiliate the most powerful people in the city. So let's ask the question Athens couldn't answer. How does asking questions get a man executed? Socrates was born around 470 BC, into a golden age. Athens had just beaten the Persian Empire, twice. It was rich, proud, and inventing democracy as it went. His father cut stone. His mother was a midwife. And Socrates kept that word, midwife, for the rest of his life. He said he didn't teach people anything. He just helped them give birth to ideas they already carried. He had a wife, Xantippe, and 3 sons. He owned almost nothing and wanted almost nothing. Here's the why: for Socrates, needing less meant fearing less. A man who can't be bribed and can't be scared is a dangerous kind of free. He wasn't a professor. He had no school, no fees, no students in the formal sense. He just talked. In the marketplace. To anyone. But before the philosopher, there was a soldier. Athens went to war with Sparta, a war that lasted a generation. Socrates fought in heavy armor at Potidaea, Delium, and Amphipolis. At Potidaea, the stories say he saved the life of a beautiful young aristocrat. That young man was Alcibiades, remember him? Comrades described Socrates walking barefoot across the ice. Standing still for a full day and night, lost in thought. Calm in a retreat while braver men panicked. This matters, because later they'll call him a coward and a bad influence. The man had already risked his life for the city that would condemn him. Then came the moment that turned a curious man into a mission. His friend Xenophon went to the oracle at Delphi. He asked the god a simple question: is anyone wiser than Socrates? The oracle answered, no one. And Socrates was baffled, because he felt he knew nothing at all. So he set out to prove the god wrong. He went to the politicians, the poets, the famous craftsmen. Everyone with a reputation for wisdom. And he questioned them, gently, until each one contradicted himself. They didn't actually know what justice was. Or courage. Or beauty. They only thought they did. And that's when Socrates understood the riddle. He wasn't wiser because he knew more. He was wiser because he alone knew that he knew nothing. That is the whole of Socrates in one line. From then on, questioning wasn't a habit. It was a duty from the god. His method was almost insultingly simple. He never lectured. He only asked. Define courage for me. Now, does your definition survive one hard example? It never did. Step by step, the confident man was walked into a wall of his own contradictions. The Greeks had a word for that dead end, aporia. Genuine confusion. And Socrates thought that confusion was the beginning of wisdom. Because you can't search for an answer you think you already have. He called himself a gadfly, a biting fly on a slow, lazy horse. Athens was the horse. Comfortable, proud, half asleep in its own success. His job was to sting it awake, over and over, whether it liked it or not. He even claimed a private voice, a kind of inner sign, that warned him off wrongdoing. Not a voice that told him what to do. Only what to stop. To his followers, it was divine. To his enemies, it was proof he invented his own gods. Now, why would beautiful, brilliant young men follow a barefoot old man around? Because watching him take apart their fathers was the best show in Athens. He gathered a circle of the city's sharpest, richest youth. And that circle would become the rope around his neck. Remember Alcibiades, the soldier he saved? He grew up to be a golden, reckless star, and then he defected to Sparta. He helped Athens' enemy win the war. Another student, Critias, went further. When Sparta finally crushed Athens, Critias led a puppet regime called the 30 Tyrants. In months, they executed hundreds and stole everything they could. Two of the men who broke Athens had once sat at Socrates' feet. So here's the uncomfortable truth the trial was really about. Athens didn't fear his ideas in the abstract. It feared what his ideas seemed to grow. A generation that questioned everything, including the city's right to rule them. In 399 BC, democracy was back, and the city wanted to heal. There was even an amnesty, a law against punishing people for the terror. So they couldn't charge Socrates for his students directly. Instead, 3 men accused him of something vaguer, and deadlier. Impiety, not believing in the gods of the city, and inventing new ones. And corrupting the youth of Athens. 500 citizens sat as the jury. No judge. No appeal. And Socrates, on trial for his life, refused to beg. He didn't weep. He didn't parade his children for pity, the way everyone did. Instead, the stories say, he told the jury he was the best thing that ever happened to them. That a city this important needed a gadfly to keep it honest. He said the unexamined life is not worth living. That he would rather die than stop asking questions. It was the truth. It was also, politically, suicide. They found him guilty, but only barely. Swing 30 votes and he walks free. Then came the second vote, the penalty. He was allowed to propose his own punishment instead of death. Exile would have been easy. Everyone expected it. Instead, Socrates suggested that Athens should reward him with free meals for life. The jury was furious. So he offered a small fine. And that sealed it. They voted for death, by more than convicted him. His logic was terrible strategy but perfect philosophy. He would not admit guilt for a life he was proud of. In prison, his friends bribed the guards. The escape was arranged. He could have walked out that night and lived. And he said no. Because for 70 years he'd told Athens that laws matter. That you don't get to obey only the rulings you like. To run would make his whole life a lie. So he stayed. He drank the poison the state handed him. The stories say he died calmly, still talking, still arguing to the end. His last recorded words were a strange, quiet joke about a debt he owed. Athens killed the man and lost the argument. Within a lifetime, they were embarrassed by what they'd done. His student Plato built a philosophy that shaped the next 2,000 years. Plato's student Aristotle tutored Alexander the Great. A barefoot man who wrote nothing became the root of Western thought. And he left us one uncomfortable gift. Not answers, he had almost none. Just a question he refused to stop asking. Do you actually know what you think you know? Or have you just never been asked?